My name is Colin Potts, and I'm the Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education, and I've been in that role for about 8 years now, almost to the day. I'm also a Professor of Interactive Computing in the College of Computing. I've been at Georgia Tech most of that time as a plain old professor, not as an administrator, since 1992. I was a member of the Commission on the Next in Education, and I actually played a leading role in the what led to the section of that report on advising for a new era, as well as another related section on whole person education, which deals with the broader notion of developing students as people, which I think is very close to the role of advising. And about the same time, from rather more, that's a very futuristic kind of account of looking at where advising will go in the long term and how it fits into students' personal development plans. About the same time, I was also involved in a more shorter term and more operational activity that was commissioned by the Provost, his task force on the on advising, which I kind of oversaw, but that was co-chaired by Beth Spencer, who's the director of advising. We have a very distributed model of academic advising at Georgia Tech. We believe that the best way to manage advising is actually through the academic units who understand their subject matter and their students and the way they teach the best, better than sort of central advisors do. But we've known for a long time that we need more coordination and dissemination of best practices through the Institute. And so that was really what, in both of these efforts, the CNE report and the task force, we were striving to do. And I think that this project is going to be very important, not the first step, but the first major step in accomplishing that. One of the challenges I think that we have at Georgia Tech is that we're a single institution, but we sometimes behave as if we're 6 colleges or 30-something departments, schools, and many students, of course, we require students to choose a major when they come to Georgia Tech. But many students change their mind, or they may double major, or they minor in another area. And of course, they take many courses in other areas, sometimes testing the waters to decide what they might want to change their major to. And so one of the important things I think having a common platform will lead us away from is this attitude that I think we need to reconsider, that I'm advising my students, where my students means students who are pursuing the major in the department I'm employed in, because they're all our students. They're all Georgia Tech students. And so a student who is coming to you from another school wanting to find out what courses are available and what kinds of things people in that discipline do, you may not be able to answer that. You know, an advisor may not be able to answer all of those questions, but they can refer them to the right person. And so I think having a common mode of record keeping track of appointments, keeping track of notes that have been made about possibly questions students have had or difficulties they've got into and got out of, hopefully, can really help us track the students' development. That's actually one reason why we went for an application that's based on a platform, a customer kind of relations management CRM platform, because although students aren't customers in the commercial sense, they are the people that we're trying to benefit by our presence here. They're why we're here. And they have lots of touch points throughout their careers at Georgia Tech that we need to keep track of, so that we're treating them as whole people, not just as a series of separate transactions. I hope that having a common advising platform, which in the future might be coordinated with other technology we use, will actually give a better sense of lifetime satisfaction. Students sort of experience Georgia Tech as a journey they go through, not just the place that they're at where they're being directed to go to different offices to answer different questions. They come in as former high school students who were applied to Georgia Tech. They become first years in the first year experience, then they become more senior students, they might become graduate students. Eventually they become alumni. This platform is not going to support all of that journey, but it does, I think, it's first step in the idea of a kind of a lifelong involvement with Georgia Tech that we would like to promote as a kind of part of Georgia Tech's brand, that we don't just offer a bunch of different programs, but that we educate students for life. And so if a student comes back several years later, maybe takes a professional education course, they're still the same person. They're not a different ID. They're the same person with a background that it might be useful for us to know about, so that we can help them more effectively. But while they're here as undergraduates, certainly I think the journey they go through from being first years to commencement is actually something that we want to keep track of. We want to be able to really keep a record of their entire experience so that we can help them more effectively. And we won't then fall into, I think, one of the problems that sometimes happens when you have lots of distributed systems, that things fall into the cracks between the systems that you have, and it's more difficult to follow through on maybe alerts or information about a student, and it's more difficult, I think, to hold anybody accountable for things that don't get done and help that's not provided. Having a common platform requires us to accept that anything can't go. There have to be certain kinds of ways in which we manage information, and that's going to be more difficult, I think, for some units to adapt to than others. And it's not that they're being victimized or singled out, it's just that we need to have some commonality in the way that we work. And we will work through, I think, any problems in terms of how we customize for the best way for people to work during the coming semester. Another thing I think that's inevitably going to happen is that there will be some problems perhaps with very mundane issues that actually matter a lot to some people, like terminology. If you have a common platform, then you have to refer to like data elements and ideas as by single words, and in the past different units, different departments may have referred to the same thing by different words, and just getting used to that kind of thing can actually create some confusion and some apprehension. So I'd ask everybody to sort of get beyond those little things and see the big picture. Everybody's going to be trying something what is ultimately new out first time. It's not perfect, and I think it's going to be quite an experience. In terms of the benefits, I'm really looking forward to very rapid benefits in terms of keeping track of students. We have, I think, a unique problem at Georgia Tech, maybe not unique, but it's unusual. We don't have students who tend to flunk out. We have very good retention rates. We have very good degree completion rates. But we do have students who don't perform as well as they hope. We do have students who fail courses and have to take the same course many times. We have students who get trapped in the wrong major because the can-do attitude that we encourage students to have at Georgia Tech. They're very, very, I think, effective self-starters. They're very disciplined. They're very resilient. They don't like to see a change of mind or a change of plan into anything other than a failure. And I think we have to encourage them to early on to adapt to the fact that maybe they're taking courses that aren't right for them, and that they'd be much more happy and fulfilled if they were doing other things. The more we have a broad approach where information is visible to advisors across units, the more I think we're able to provide those services rather than seeing students as our students in our department. That's one thing I think is a benefit. And it'll mean that we can therefore keep track of students who would otherwise fall into the cracks, those students who are taking the same course too many times. What's with that? Okay, something's gone wrong. We wouldn't have admitted them to Georgia Tech if we had foreseen that this was going to be a problem. So between their admission and the problem being discovered, something had happened. And I think earlier warnings are going to be very, very important, and they're going to be part of, I think, the criterion of success of this system.